Currently in the Kenyan market space, there is an absolute frenzy when it comes to owning an SUV. And this I'll attribute to two reasons. Reason number one is SUVs make you feel powerful. You sit high and look down on the owners of Mark X's and call them peasants. Owners of Mark X's are very rich, by the way, and that was supposed to be a joke. Number two reason why you'd buy an SUV is because of its practicality. And practicality here is in relation to our roads. Number two, the cabin space in the car. And number three, the boot space that you use to haul your luggages. Now, for a budget of 3 to 4 million Kenya shillings, you can buy selectively few crossover SUVs in the market right now. Number one on the list, the most common one that you guys call Kenya Uniform, is the Mazda CX-5. But what if you don't want to buy the Mazda CX-5 and you want to actually buy a Mitsubishi? But the Outlander is too big for you and the RVR is too slow for you and it has road noise as if you're driving the car from outside. Which car would you buy? Let me introduce to you a new car from Mitsubishi, a car that has been launched from 2018 onwards. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross with a horse in front of it. But do you guys know the real meaning of the word eclipse? And do you know where that legendary name ever existed? Let me rewind this and take you back to the time when that name really meant something before we talk about that. Back in the days, there was a demand, a huge one, for every manufacturer to sell their cars in the United States of America. I don't know why. Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, name them all. Everybody was scrambling to sell their cars in the United States of America. Now, here comes a different manufacturer called Mitsubishi. They were making cars in Japan, but in America, there is a company called Chrysler, which was buying their cars and rebadging them as their own. And they will do well in the market. But again, Mitsubishi sat back and said, how do we get to sell more cars in the American? And the idea that they came up with is to partner with Chrysler. So they came up with a company called Diamond Star Motors, in short DSM. And this company gave birth to one of the most beautiful and epic car that has ever been made. Okay, one of them, because the other one is definitely an Evo. But this car that was made out of this partnership is what was given the badge Eclipse. So they created the Eclipse. Now, this Eclipse, not only was it a very smartly designed car, it also featured a unique, powerful engine. And this engine was co-shared by another legendary car from Mitsubishi. And this car is the Evolution. The Evo 1, Evo 2, Evo 3, particularly the Evo 3, because during that time, 1989 all the way to 1995, it was an era where the Evolution 3 was touring and taking charge of its position. Now, the Eclipse, DSM, Chrysler, Mitsubishi together, was given the engine 4G63T. Now, for those guys who don't know 4G63, I don't know what to say to you. Like, 4G63 sits in the same category as the 2JZs, the 1JZ. Talk about any legendary engine from back then. That's where the 4G63 sits, because it was powerful, it was easy to tune, it will give you epic performance, and it was just loved by all car enthusiasts. Now, let's stop there for a minute. At this moment, people hadn't realized exactly how beautiful and how awesome the Eclipse was until the first Fast and Furious. And Paul Walker turned up in the first scene he appeared with an Eclipse. And then everything went bananas, because this movie set the idea of people buying and owning the Eclipse across the entire United States. And that ripple effect spread across the entire world. Back in Japan, everywhere, every young guy that loved cars, the moment they saw the Eclipse, they knew that this was the car they needed to own. Fast forward, they created more Eclipses and more Eclipses, and every day they became bad to worse to badder, if that's the word, until it was closed down. So in 2016, rumors started circulating around that Mitsubishi are considering bringing back the Eclipse. So pictures and posters of a new looking sedan Eclipse flourished the entire internet, and people knew that something that will look like a WRX, something that will look like a Supra that has a badge Eclipse is coming back with all-wheel drive, and it will just be bananas. And guess what Mitsubishi did? They actually gave us this. Now, with that background, the big question that we are about to answer, and kindly help me get this straight, is does this car really deserve to carry the name Eclipse? Or is it just any other average everyday car from Mitsubishi that you need to buy and drive around? This being a new product launched in 2017 by Mitsubishi, it provided a few controversies on the interviews from car owners, and those controversies were down to how it looks. To me, I don't know, you guys will tell me at the end of this video, how do you rate the looks of this particular car? But from the onset, it looks like any other Mitsubishi product. Of course, the dynamic shield design language from Mitsubishi, just like the Kodo design for Mazda, you have all that glaring at you. Your LED headlights with these weird looking fog lights that are down here, and you can mistake it for the headlamps, but these are what the headlamps are. This is where you get all the lights. LED, but these are your projector bulbs that you get there, and indicators there. So it looks weird for a second. You need time to get used to it, but that's what you get. You have your piano black finish here with some chrome badgings on your grille. Again, these are normal things we're used to seeing on any other car. But down here, that's where things get a bit interesting, because if you look carefully, you can see that we have an intercooler, and that means that this car is turbocharged. And I can't wait to see and feel how exactly that translates down to power. Does it live up to the name Eclipse ama ni mchezo? Now, coming to the side profile of this car, that's where there is a bit of controversy, and this car takes from the coupe design language, where it has a sloping roofline that comes all the way to the rear. Come on, if you're not buying the RVR and you need something that is sporty, something that is slightly more powerful, and talking about power, we'll discuss that when it comes to the engine and the driving experience, but this is what you get. Of course, there are a few lines that are crossing from the front door to the back door, all the way to the rear taillights, which just accentuates and makes this car look a bit aggressive. These plastic arcings with chrome appendages, they're there to protect you, especially when you're doing a bit of treacherous driving and you want something to protect your paint when you're rolling over maybe rocks. I don't know. I reckon if you put some serious tires on this car, it will probably take you to places that many will not. So that's something that you get from this car. Now, let's talk about the size of the wheels. Now, what you have here is size 18 with alloys both front and the rear. When it comes to suspension, you have McPherson strut at the front and a Martling suspension system at the rear. Coming all the way to the rear of this car, this is where the ultimate controversy is, because look at what Mitsubishi have done at the back. Now, you have a very long red taillight that cuts across the entire boot. Then you have some few remaining on the car itself, and when you open the boot, I don't know, you guys tell me, what do you think about that? Would you or would you not? I reckon from 2023 they did a bit of an update here and it looks a bit different. Fabian will put a picture here so you guys can look at it, but this is what we have. It's a car that is not trying to be anything else, but it has something that many cars don't have in the market right now, like this. So it has a wiper, a rear windscreen wiper, and this is not in a black piano finish. This is actually part of the windscreen, and when you're driving the car, you are able to look through this. I don't know, do you call it kio? Yeah, you're able to look behind it and see who is coming behind you, and that's interesting. Of course, you have a Mitsubishi badge, then you have the Eclipse Cross badge. Parking sensors, a rear diffuser that is not a diffuser with these plastic gray paddings. I don't know, it's just there. I'm a bit confused with how this car looks at the rear. There's nothing important to talk about Hapachin, okay? Let's just forget that. There's just one exhaust tip. Let's talk about practicality and what this car offers. So in terms of practicality, Remember, in another trim, you can actually get this car with an electronic tailgate. This one does not come with an electronic tailgate, but you get your boot space, which is not, I can't say it's the best in the market, but it's somewhere there. I reckon this is far much better than a Mazda CX-5. Yeah, this is far much better than a Mazda CX-5. Probably it won't be better than anything else, but a Mazda CX-5, yeah, this will do. This will do. So this particular car sits between the RVR and the Mitsubishi Outlander. And of course, being there, it means it competes with few cars in that space. Number one is the CX-5. Number two is the Toyota Cross. It has a cross name again. I hope that we will get one of those cars on the channel very soon. Number three, it's the Peugeot 5008. And number four is the RAV4 as well. Okay, those are cars that you guys are buying dominantly the market right now. So technically, it's actually bigger than the CX-5. But I'm curious, tell me, do you think it's bigger than the rest of the other cars that I've mentioned? You don't get a full spare wheel tire. Again, these are things that we know from any car that you're importing from Japan, but you get a tire repair kit, your jack and your wheel articulation stuff that are all stationed here. Now let's talk about practicality, because before I leave here, I want to fold out the front or the second row of seats and show you some weird, unlike many cars in this space. This one you have to do that. Okay, there you go. It doesn't go flat, but it falls down and it becomes a bit weird, because if, just stay there. If I brought this seat back up and then brought this one down and then moved this seat mbele kidogo and then now closed it up, you see, it creates a very weird gap that will always be there. Come on. I don't believe they thought about it when they were doing this. So that's what you get. So in terms of practicality, it's not flat, leaves a weird gap. But I reckon it does whatever you guys will want it to do. If you're buying an SUV, one thing that is quite important for you is practicality and cabin space. And so in terms of that, I believe you have decent, okay, better than the RVR, but almost the same class with what you'll get in a CX-5 or the Toyota Cross. There's nothing much difference in terms of how it feels. This is not the premium model or trim of this car. So you have cloth interior, and these seats, they will not tuck you in and they'll not make you feel as good as those ones you'll find in a CX-5. So hapo kidogo, they're a bit lacking. You have your two cup holders here with your armrest in the middle, again to just deter huyo mtu wa lift. But in case you have a third person to carry, there's no transmission tunnel, so this person will get ample space to sit and enjoy a ride, but not for a long distance, especially if you're a tall person. I believe that's doable. Away from that, I have something that I love about this car that most cars do not have in this category, and that is a double sunroof. Most of the other cars will have like a panoramic sunroof that is being controlled by one person at the front. You press and everything goes back. But this one has double sunroof, and it gives the people sitting at the rear seat an opportunity to control that. So I can control the shade and the sunroof itself, whether it retracts or it comes back. I have the absolute full control of doing that. And that is something I really, really appreciate about Mitsubishi when it comes to the Eclipse Cross. Away from that, fake carbon fibers on the door with very rough, brittle plastic that will last 100 years, of course. Then you have a piano black on the doorknob that you used to open the door. That piano black, ukishika na mafuta, yeah, itaparara na itakaa na mistari na mavidole ndani. But again, that's what you get. When it comes to the practicality on the door bins, you can probably fit in there like a 1 liter bottle of water or kinywaji or whatever thing that you're buying that fits into a 1 liter. I believe that's all you get when it comes to door bins practicality. Make it worse, you don't get any AC vents on the rear seat, and you don't get any storage compartments on this particular person seat, this one. But for me, I have something here. I don't know, what's the rationale? Why would they have it here and not in the... Help me in the comments. Why would they? Even you don't know. I believe Mitsubishi were going after the legacy that Toyota has, where they give you things that will work. They might not be premium, they might not be luxurious, but trust me, they will last 100 years. And that's the same feel I get from this car. You have your plastics, which are rough and brittle to the touch. But I reckon this is the type of plastic that will last 200 years without a problem. But that's what you get. So the build quality of this car is there. Of course, I have cloth interior. The front seats are slightly better, so you can take it slightly down for a taller person. And when you are short, you can also use a manual lever to bring the seats back up, which is something that you really need when you buy an SUV. So let's talk about practicality. You get the opportunity to have a dual storage glove compartment, so you can store some few things here like your menu and all that. Then you can feature some other stuff hapo chini. You have another storage compartment here. Here you can put your phones when you're driving this car so you don't have it as a distraction, or else you can also put your phones here. You have 2 cup holders, and the door bins here again, they're slightly huge and good, so you can fit there again another 1 liter bottle of water. Just make sure that your journey as you drive this car and enjoy the Eclipse badging is guaranteed to perfection. Let's talk about features. Now, what features do you get when you buy this car? I get a malfunction steering wheel that has a few options. You have your volume controls, you have your cruise control, where you can set the distance between you and the car that is in front of you. Of course, this has adaptive cruise control, and you can adjust the speed of all that. You have very big and huge legacy looking paddle shifters that are here to simulate the 8-speed simulated CVT. We'll talk about that when we talk about the engine and transmission, but again, it just adds on to the sportish vibe of you buying this car. The instrument cluster is analog. You have 2 analog gauges, and then in the middle you have a digital gauge. You have an 8-inch display that is touched to the fingers, but again, this is not the stock one, so this I believe has been changed. But if you buy the original one, it has still an 8-inch that has some few quirks and features like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto enabled. I'm not sure about this because I am not able to confirm, because this is aftermarket, so I will not be able to give you a confirmation whether this can be able to do that. But if I was the one buying this car, delete this one, wake up or Android audio, Android radio, and I'm good to go. You don't get heated seats at the front because those are options that are reserved for another trim, but this particular one doesn't have that. But you get 2 USB charging ports and your normal climate controls for a dual zone setup, so for the driver and the passenger. That's all you get. Hapa katikati you have your parking brake, which is electronic, and then you have your auto hold. There's a button that is missing here. Every time you see a button that is empty, it means this is a powered spec. Okay, meaning if this button was active, you'll get the AWD system from Mitsubishi that is always here, and that one can change your driving modes from normal, gravel to whatever other mode that they have in there. Now that's what you get. In terms of safety options, this car is rated conservatively in terms of safety. I believe it's rated at 4.5 safety rating. The updated version, the earlier versions, this is the earlier version actually. This one was not at 4, it was I think around 3.5 because of side collision. It failed terribly. It came to side collision, and that's something that they worked on and revised from 2020 all the way to 2024. So it got better safety ratings. But you have safety features like lane assist, but this one doesn't center you in the middle of your lane, but you have lane assist there. You have traction control, then you have rear and front collision mitigation, which is quite beautiful. I believe these things, they are on every car right now. If you're buying a car from 2018 going forward, ikiwa kale ka Toyota Tanka kona hizo vitu, surely if you buy a car that doesn't have those things, then you're buying a very bad car. Okay, that's all that I can tell you about this car. Let's talk about the engine, because I've already told you about the sunroof. Yes, I have a front sunroof that I can also adjust. I have options to adjust the guys at the rear and mine as well, but in case I don't want to bother where I'm carrying at the rear, they have the freedom to do that on themselves, and then me, I can just control mine, retract it, and enjoy the sunlight of Nairobi. Yeah. So let's check out the front and confirm, does this car really live up to the expectations that we put on the Eclipse? Under the hood of the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross is one global engine that cuts across different markets, and this is what we call the 4B40, which is a 1500 turbocharged multi-injection engine. Multi-injection here is, it means you have port injection at the same time you have direct injection, to get rid of the problems he had in the earlier versions of Mitsubishi when it came to carbon buildup. You know, the earlier versions of the GDI. So they've done a bit of engineering innovations to make sure that that doesn't happen. So that's what you get. This engine is capable of giving you 152 HP and 250 Newton meters of torque, which, if you ask me, for the badge Eclipse is such an underwhelming output. But again, we will get to test that on the road and see how does it actually translate down to power. Paired to this engine is a CVT, an 8-speed simulated CVT. But in case you want to buy this car in a diesel variant, you also get an engine called the 4N40. Yeah, we are used to buying the bigger Mitsubishi, you know, Pajero with the 4M. So this one is the 4N40. That's what you get under the hood if you decide to buy the diesel. 2,200 cc of engine displacement, again direct injection, which is quite an option right now. Right now, for me, I'm advocating guys to buy diesels. If you can import this car in a diesel variant and deal with the issues of cleaning your DPF, this car will give you epic and humble fuel economy and performance at the same time. So the only thing that we are down to do is get on the road, confirm how this car puts down its power. And I told you this one is a front wheel version, okay? But you can also get this car in an all-wheel drive version. But this particular one, front wheel. So I'm curious to see how does it put down that power to the front wheel. And does it really, again, conform to the pedigree of the Eclipse name? I tend to think I've said that name so many times because from where I come from and for what I understand, the guys who grew up knowing the Eclipse are here wondering whether this car is a worthy buy. Let's confirm together. Driving an Eclipse feels a little bit different, okay? That is, if you are doing your normal cruise, okay? Like, it's totally different from something like a CX-5. My sitting position is more of a car-like feel. It doesn't look like a proper SUV. I'm actually sitting very comfortably, right? And I sit quite up and I'm looking at all the cars. Around this area, the visibility is quite beautiful, quite awesome. I'm accessing all the angles I need. But hapa nyuma, when I want to look behind, now through the driving mirror, that's when I get a bit of a challenge. It's not pretty bad. It can actually work. Considering you have a split windscreen at the rear, you get to see a bit of more, especially for guys who are driving do this. Unaona vizuri sana from the lower bit. Yeah, it's darkened from the exterior, but from inside it's quite good. I'm actually loving that idea of doing that. It makes me feel confident that I can see everybody who is coming behind me. Now, let's talk about the things that will make you consider buying this car. Oh, maybe not. One, we have a Jatco CVT. You guys need to know that Nissan and Mitsubishi have been having this partnership with Jatco around the production of their CVTs, and that's what you get, okay? But paired to that engine, which is a turbocharged engine, I can tell you it's agile, but you know, it's a CVT at the end of the day. And one thing I want to talk about that CVT, it is an 8-gear simulated CVT. That's why you have these paddle shifters, and they do work. The simulation is quite good. Like right now, let me shift to manual. It actually works. If I downshift, yeah, you can feel it. You guys can hear that? Yeah, it actually works. The simulation is quite spot on. I'm kind of amazed with how they achieved that, but it actually worked. Right now, I've downshifted to 3. Let me just scare you. Upshift, and it goes. you put your bins down and she goes. She's agile, she feels good. You can actually mistake this car for an auto if you're not careful enough, but that's what you get. So it's a Jatco CVT. One thing with Jatco CVTs, just like Nissan CVTs, if you don't take care of them, they will show you mambo. So number one, make sure you service them regularly with the right fluid and on time. On this one, I recommend not anything past 50,000 kilometers. 50,000 K, you good. Service, change your fluid, change the strainer, the filters. Make sure you give this car proper service. The CVT will never have any issues with you, okay? Number two, one thing that I like about this car is in the heads-up display, it's quite bright. Right now, I'm actually in manual mode and in my lock gear number 5. And it's holding number 5. It's not trying to change, even though I'm trying to cruise. which is quite interesting. Most of the cars that I've had, ukiweka manual mode na wachane nayo, it will actually slowly swim back to your auto mode. So I like that aspect of this car. The other thing that we are here to test is actually the agility of this car. Like, I love the idea that the turbocharger is actually kicking. Now, there's a bit of a whistle that comes out of you having a turbocharger in your car. Some people like it, some people won't like it. But for me, I love the whistle. The idea that I have it there and I can drive and enjoy and give me that whistle. Perfect. This car feels solid on the road. Like, the drive quality is good. Just like the RVR, I believe there is a bit of road noise that we get on this car, which again, Mitsubishi have been having this. Even on the Outlander, you still have the same thing. I believe there's a bit of road noise. It's not as calm, it's not as silent as I would want it to be, but that's what you get. Okay, there are drive assist features like lane assist, but it doesn't center you all the time. So this one you have to do the centering yourself, but it will warn you when you're crossing from one lane to the other one. The heads-up display is quite good. It's quite bright. You can adjust the brightness. It has a button for that. Quite easy. Let's talk about fuel economy. Okay, this car on paper is rated around 12 kilometers to a liter, but right now I've averaged on my trip, that's the reality average, is 9 kilometers per liter. That's what I'm getting here. So I'll put it at practical use. If you're doing long distances, maybe 12. But if you're doing your normal town city drives, I'll put it at maybe 9, 10 at most for an SUV. I don't know whether that's cool with you, but I know you'll get better numbers with 6.5 diesel. This car can come with an option of the all-wheel drive system, which will help a lot when it comes to handling. It's a front wheel biased, but it kicks in the rear wheel when you just need it for traction and handling. So you do not have that option in this particular car. So you have front wheel drive to work with. So as a normal car that is raised up, of course you'll deal with oversteer and understeer when you get it. Okay. In terms of handling, it's a proper car. I like the braking. Feels quite good, spot on. Oh, I need to talk about the suspension feel. This car feels solid. The suspension feel is good. It's quite comfortable. It's quite soft. Actually, I don't think there's any other car in this category that feels better than this car. I'll tell you for a fact. The CX-5, anything, just mention. This car feels quite soft. Nice for a normal cruiser. Kama kuna gari you'll enjoy driving over long distances because of suspensions, this one. It doesn't make you feel tired. Okay? Mwah! Perfect on that one, they nailed. But the driving dynamics, if you're driving this car slowly, this car is very silent. That's another thing that I noticed. You rarely even hear the engine, you rarely hear the transmission. Taskia tuka road noise kidogo of the tires running down on the tarmac. But away from that, if you put your foot down, now the CVT kicks in, you can hear the whine, you can hear the engine, the turbocharger and the whistle. But it handles quite good. And it gets up speeds quite good as well. I don't know. This is a car that might surprise us when it comes to 0 to 100. But again, unless we confirm it, but I have a good feeling. So now let me find a good spot and then we do a pull and see, will it really live up to the Eclipse name? Because that's what we are here to confirm. The name Eclipse, it's a serious name. And I really want to confirm whether this car will live up to that expectation. So let me find a nice spot and we'll do that pull. I'll have to confirm. So I found a nice spot. Let me try brake boost. Lost some traction there. Let's see. What are we going to get? And 100. Come on, give me the numbers. Give me the numbers. Tell you this car might surprise us. Oh, 0 to 100 in 8.97 seconds. That's pretty fast. I need to do another one, but I lost some traction. So let me just try one more take and see if these numbers will be consistent, right? You guys are ready? Let me reset. And then come to a complete stop. Loving this car. Foot on the brake. Traction again. 100. Let me see. Draghi. This one was slower. 9.47. Can we go with the first one? Yeah. We'll keep the first one. The first one wins. But we can just put it around 10 seconds there, about anything between 8 to 10 seconds, depending with which wheels you're running, the temperature of the day. You know, the other factors that you have to consider when you're doing these 0 to 100s. So this one, I'll give it a comfortable, let me do an average, 9 seconds. Because the first one, it was 8.67. Second one, it was 9.47. So what's that? We party average here 9, okay, for the two, which is quite solid for this size and this type of a car. I think I'm impressed. I thought the CVT will let me down, but it has held up. Does it buy to the name Eclipse? Nah, I don't bite it. Maybe delete the name Eclipse and just have this car as the Mitsubishi Cross. That's a fair deal. Eclipse? Nah. Mitsubishi, nah. Let's do value for money and see whether this car really gives us the value proposition of 4 million Kenya shillings if you buy this car from Outspride Motors. I believe this is the only car that we have in the market right now. I don't know. Is there any other person selling an Eclipse? Tell me in the comments. So let's talk about value for money. So how much will you cough when you're planning to buy this particular Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross? You're planning to spend 4 million Kenya shillings. Okay, fine. That price is not in any way convenient to buy this car. Like it's the only price that I will never defend. It's absolutely not value for money in comparison to what you get across the market. But if you're a person looking for the name Eclipse, if you're a person who is a lover of Mitsubishi and you want to stick and stay with a Mitsubishi product, then this car will offer that value to you. If you don't want to buy the RVR, you don't want to buy the Outlander, you want something that looks a bit sportish and also performs like a sport car, then this car will give you that value proposition. But for that price, of course, you can get the diesel Mazda 6.5. You can get the Toyota Cross. We are planning to get a Toyota Cross on the channel so you can just see how exactly does it pair up or how does it compete directly with the Eclipse. But the onset is, you guys can agree with me, the price of this car is extremely high, and that is down to so many factors. Like factor number 1, it's a new car in the market. Factor number 2 is the taxes. Anytime you bring in a new car to the Kenyan market, it's like people sit somewhere and decide to slap you with any cost when it comes to taxes. And that explains why Outspride Motors are selling this car at 4 million Kenya shillings. Will I see the price come down? I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments. Do you think this car is valued at 4 million Kenya shillings, and does it make a value proposition to you? To whether it lives up to the Eclipse name? No. As a car enthusiast and a person growing up understanding what the Eclipse name means, I believe the right thing to do when you're buying this car is to debudge it. Just take the Eclipse out of the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross and just keep this car as the Mitsubishi Cross. I sign out. Ibrahim Toloi. See you on the next one.